morning, good afternoon, and welcome to episode 81 of the Leading IT podcast, the podcast for Australian technology leaders who want to cut through the noise on AI, cybersecurity, data, cloud infrastructure, strategy, and leadership. I'm your host, Josh Rubin, CEO at Empyrean IT, and I'm joined by CIO Tom Layden, and we tackle the fast-moving IT landscape from both sides of the fence with pragmatic advice you can actually use. By popular demand, in this episode, we are privileged to have Andrew Welch, the global AI technologist, return as our guest to continue our discussion about AI in the enterprise and what he's seeing in the market. G'day, Tom. G'day, Andrew. Welcome back.
G'day, Josh. G'day, Andrew. And g'day, Josh's dog in the background as well.
Yes. Sorry, I've told them to shut him up, but
So guys, I was episode 80 and episode 81. It must be a slow news day in the world.
You're not the first returning. You're not the first returning guest, but you are the first that we've done back to back because the conversation was so good that we thought, and we didn't get through everything we wanted to talk about. So we thought we would continue. Yes,
there's more, but wait,
there's plenty more. So today is, by the way, it's King's birthday in Australia, Andrew, if you remember that King's birthday. So it's actually a public holiday here.
Is that the current king, or is that some other king?
No, it's King Charles. King Charles.
Okay. You guys got rid of him a long time ago, but we on mainly because we got a day off out of it, I think.
Yes.
I did. So I did. I lived in England for 5 years, and I actually went to see, this was pure coincidence. I went to see the show Hamilton on the day of Charles's coronation, which was very, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the show, but it mercilessly mocks King George the Third. Though actually in a way that is very catchy and made him one of the most popular characters on the show. But it was sort of surreal on the day of the coronation, going to see Hamilton for the first time. But anyway, neither here nor there. Happy birthday, King.
Thank you. And Andrew, you've been traveling, so you've had a couple of conferences and some events. Do you want to maybe, some of them are relevant to our discussion? Do you want to maybe talk about?
Yeah, well, I'll focus on the one that is open invite. Some of the other travels I've had recently have been specific to specific organizations I work with. But I mean, listen, since we last talked, we had DynamicsMinds, which is I think it's pretty, amongst those who are aware of DynamicsMinds, it is, I feel like, pretty well agreed, the best Microsoft Orbit event of the year. There was a lot of talk this month or this year. It happens every week at the end of May in Portorož, Slovenia, and this was the fourth one. So there was a lot of talk, I felt, this year of those of us who have been to all of them, where the first year we all kind of went because we thought it was weird, right? Like, this was this odd conference happening 2.5 hours away from any major airport in a country that almost nobody has been to. It's one of the smallest countries by population in Europe. And we all kind of went, a lot of us went because we thought, well, it's never going to happen again, right? Let's go see this strange event. And I think everyone who was there the first year, we had different moments when we thought, oh, this is going to happen again. For me, it was walking out into this terrace bar that they have on the top floor of the hotel there, and seeing the Adriatic Sea, and from that vantage point, you can see straight out to sea. The sun sets over the water. You can see Slovenia where you're standing. You can see Croatia on a clear day. You can see Italy, and thinking, this is so worth the 2.5 hour journey from the closest major airport. It's just a phenomenal. It's a fabulous 3 or 4 days,
and it covers D365, AI, all the core Microsoft.
Yeah, so it covers. Traditionally, it has been a business applications focused event. I actually think if I were going to give the organizers any feedback, I would say, listen, take the tracks, right? Have a track for business applications, have a track for AI, have a track for Azure, maybe have a track for the data platform. Broaden the appeal, expand the appeal, because it's just such a fabulous event. But yeah, it definitely has I don't really present a lot and talk a lot about business applications explicitly anymore. I talk about those technologies in the context of other things like the data platform and AI, et cetera. So my sessions were on AI strategy and architecture. So I think that, you definitely go to DynamicMinds at least once if you are in the Microsoft orbit at all, right? But for business applications folks, it has special appeal, I think.
I have to say, last year I signed up for the conference. Obviously, I couldn't go, but I watched on demand the sessions, your sessions and your colleagues' sessions, and they were excellent. So I would advise it was well worth the few $100 it cost me to get the content. So thank you, Andrew. That's a cheap way to get the content. Just saying.
Thanks, Josh.
Giving away some treats. Yeah.
I think it's learn.cloudlight.house or something like that. But
yeah.
Anyway, actually, it was funny this year. So last year in 2025, we had, as an organization, the Center for Trustworthy AI and our company, Cloud Lighthouse, we had, I would say, more of a presence. We just kind of went all out to have as many people there as possible. This year, we had a presence. There were 4 of us. But it was not quite as we didn't have the level of support that we did the previous year, just because there's so much going on. So to all these sessions, I was running in with the tripod and the little camera and the microphone and getting people mic'd up. So it was definitely managing partner and camera monkey from Cloud Lighthouse. But I learned a lot about audiovisual technology in a crash course at DynamicsMinds this year.
And one thing I was really interested from last year, and whether that's evolved this year, because I know a lot of the attendees are partners, but also customers, a wide range of perspectives about how AI projects are delivered differently to traditional software delivery or IT projects. So do you want to maybe talk a little bit about that, your view there?
Yeah. So this has been, I think, very, very interesting, and I think it's been really challenging. Last time we were together on the last episode, we spoke a little bit. I think we touched on some of the challenges maybe that Microsoft partners are going to have are having now and are going to have in the years ahead. This is not new, but I think that it impacts maybe business partners that have a predisposition to business applications or a specialty in business applications, maybe more than others. So for the longest time, since IT time immemorial, which was, 70s, maybe actually 70s, 80s, right? But for the longest time, what you've had is a company wants to do something. They want to implement a technology. We heard a lot about this word implement, right? And what they would do is they would go out and maybe they knew what technology they wanted to buy. Say they recognized they needed a new ERP or CRM or whatever it was. And they would go out to tender. They would acquire the technology itself. And then they might maybe through the same tender or a separate tender, they would acquire the services to go implement it. And a partner would pitch, especially in the case of ERP, for organizations of a certain size, would pitch these pretty massive implementation projects, right? So maybe if you were a little bit of an organization on the smaller side, you could get it done in 6 months, a year. If you were a larger organization, these ERP implementation projects would go on for years. And some of the, I'm thinking, when I think ERP, I'm thinking functions like operations and finance and supply chain. But these patterns of implementation were repeated in other technologies as well. So HR systems, sales and marketing systems, CRM, we came to call it eventually. And these projects would just go on. And that was, I worked on them in 2007. There was a big merger of multiple rental car companies. And I remember being sort of socked away in a warehouse somewhere, working on the SAP implementation for this newly minted mega rental car company. And that was both the model of technical implementation, but it was also the financial model for these partners, right? You have a big team, you go out, you make millions and millions of whatever your currency on these projects, and then you finish it and you move on to the next. But because the projects take so long, you have a lot of time to sell your book of business, your sort of forward-facing book of business. And that's changed so significantly. I think it started to change with the advent of public cloud technologies like Azure and AWS. It then changed a bit more when these legacy technologies like ERP migrated to cloud technology. It changed a bit more with the introduction of what we call the data platform. And now with AI, we're just in this world where projects should be generally understood to be extraordinarily fast, to go very, very quickly, and to be much, much smaller. So the way that I encapsulate this is that the old way of doing it were these kind of short and fat engagements where you might make millions of dollars or millions of pounds, millions of euro over a 1 to 3 year period, and then you were done and you were going to go away for 10 years, right? Now you're going to make you're going to charge your customer much less, but you're trying to build a long-term relationship with that customer.
So let's flip it around to the customer side of the table.
Sure.
So what should they be thinking about? So, I mean, they still need to do all the requirements gathering and all the functional bits and all that sort of stuff. So what is it, because the technical configuration is less because we're doing it through AI? Like, I'm just trying to understand what that means from a client point of view.
Yeah, that's really worthwhile. Okay, so first of all, I think that a client, if you're an end customer, right? If you're not the organization implementing the software, you're the organization hiring someone to implement the technology for you. First of all, I think that you should be generally suspicious of AI and data type projects that are pitched to you as these massive multi-year millions and millions of whatever efforts, right? I think that you should be generally suspicious of. And I think that you should challenge the companies that you go out to hire, right, to demonstrate value to you in much more incremental ways, right? So I'm seeing software packages, I'm seeing applications, I'm seeing data, packages of data technology. We could talk about the details of this, right? But I'm seeing these technologies rolled out very, very quickly, not in full, right? This is not like we're just going to flip a switch and cut over from old ERP to new ERP. But you don't need to wait anymore to start realizing the value of some of this stuff. And part of that is because we can use AI assisted development technologies to implement. Some of that is because the technologies that we are now implementing come in, I think, much smaller chunks. And part of that is because, listen, most financial services institutions do not rely, like I'm thinking banks, insurance, et cetera. They don't rely on ERP in the way, say, manufacturing or retail does. So part of this is industry specific, but every industry is going to have their core technology. So in financial services, it might be a core banking technology, and manufacturing, it might be supply chain. But what we're seeing now is that those are getting implemented more so in a kind of a vanilla fashion, right? We're not spending years and years customizing. We're putting in the clean core ERP, right? So this is the phrase we use, is keep the core clean. Put in that ERP, and then build around it, because ERP is no longer really the center. Really, it's about ERP as a container for business process. You're trying to get data into your data platform so you can use it throughout your ecosystem.
Right. So having that ecosystem-oriented architecture foundation is important. And once you have that in place, these things become quicker, right? Is that? I'll let you sip your coffee. But is that what you're saying?
I think that that's definitely what I'm saying. And so, but I'm not saying that the level of effort is lower, right? I'm not saying that. So let's take some of the nuance here. Let's take some of the gotchas. Yeah. So one gotcha is that the old way of doing things was work really hard over a period of years, and then at the end of the road, you're going to get the thing. The new way of doing things is work hard, maybe still over a period of years, but you're going to get value a few weeks in, maybe, or a month in, or whatever. Yeah. So one of the things that consultancies can do to succeed is to get really good at building sincere, genuine, productive relationships with their customers over time. And one of the things that customers can do on their side of the equation is to invest in that relationship, right? To invest, to choose partners that they feel they can build a relationship with over time. So I think that there's work to be done on both sides. The other part that I see here that I think is customers are going to be mighty surprised about, right? And maybe we should talk about the cost of AI. But I think that customers have this notion that, the partner can do it quickly now because they can do it with AI. Well, AI costs money to use, right? So customers that are trying to squeeze their partners on price, I think, are making a big mistake, because they're basically saying, listen, I don't want you to take as long. I don't want you to use as many people, so you don't bill me as many hours or as many days, but I want you to use the AI, but I forgot, or I didn't realize that AI costs money too.
No, you use the free AI. Use the free AI.
Use the free thing.
Where my data is going to go out into the web and someone else, but use it and charge us less.
Exactly. So there's responsibility on both sides.
I'm glad you said that, Andrew, not me. But and I also reflect, if when Tom was a customer, he would have been a lot less supportive of this chat than he is now. He's on the other side of the desk. Now you're going. Now you go. Yeah. So I have another question,
sure.
Andrew. Sorry, I'm very passionate about this stuff. So talking about implementing the core and then having a flexible edge. So that was up until probably 18 months ago, where we would say, okay, do a vanilla D365 CRM implementation, but customize around that using satellite power apps.
Right.
Now, is Power Apps dead? Right? Where is Power Apps? What's going on? What's happened to Power Apps? Because I'll say, from what I can see and from what Microsoft is saying, it's now just a background tool that you can vibe code in front of. That's anyway. My view. Sorry, Andrew. Over to you. Yeah.
So funny story about this, actually, right? Over the years at DynamicsMinds, the conference we were talking about at the Open. Over the years, there has become this joke, right, about every year at DynamicsMinds, someone gets up on stage and proclaims something to be dead, right? So we've heard all sorts of business applications is dead, Dynamics is dead, Power Platform is dead. Actually, I think that Charles Lamanna, I think, I was not at this conference, but as I understand it, Charles Lamanna last year in Vegas at the Power Platform conference kind of leaned into this meme and had this big slide that said, like, Power Platform is dead. And then he dropped down and said, as we know it, right?
Yes, I did see that. I did see that.
So this has been, and of course, people whose livelihoods depend on Power Platform were outraged and terrified at this proclamation. But anyway, listen, is Power Platform dead? No, Power Platform is not. Power Platform is not dead, but Power Platform is going to evolve. Power Platform is going to evolve in ways that we've, I think, just seen the beginning of. And what I don't know is if I think that there's a world in which the components of Power Platform, the things that you do with Power Platform, are taken and assigned to other buckets of technology, right? So I think that I don't have inside information on this. I would say I would be very surprised if there have not been conversations within Microsoft as to whether or not Power Platform as a banner, as a top level banner makes sense. We can talk about whether it does or doesn't, but here's what does still make sense inside a Power Platform. Dataverse makes a ton of sense, right? If I woke up one day and heard that Dataverse had now been put inside of Fabric, that would not surprise me. I'm not saying that that's going to happen. Again, I have no inside information on that, but those are to a large extent marketing decisions, right? But Dataverse is still a very important technology. I think that Power Apps is still a very important technology, though I would expect Power Apps to change significantly over the next several years. I think that Power Apps, there's a world, right, in which Microsoft decides to take Power Apps in the direction of being essentially kind of the user-friendly the user experience that sits over top of AI, right? Rather than we're going to, as my friend Keith Watling used to say, we're going to clicky, draggy, droppy and build a Canvas app. If you're just starting off in the world of technology or Microsoft or Power Platform, I would not spend a lot of time learning Canvas apps right now. I don't think that's the future at all.
No. Okay, so you have your sort of continuum of was it incremental, differential?
Yeah.
How you describe sort of different AI workloads and Power Platform fitting into. So for our audience, do you want to maybe, for those who haven't spent a lot of time reading your stuff like me, maybe explain to them what we're talking about?
Okay, so and actually we're just this week, so we're recording this on the Monday, the 8th of June, and just this week we are finishing. It's all written, all the math is done, all the writing is done, everything is done. We're just kind of putting the finishing touches on the next release of the AI strategy framework. And so by the time this podcast comes out, it's possible that will be live as well, and folks can go get that and use that. But essentially, the framework breaks the whole of an organization's AI approach, AI strategy, AI journey, what have you, what you want to call it, down into 5 pillars. Those pillars are strategy and vision, ecosystem architecture, AI workloads, responsible AI, and scaling AI. And then within that, there are dimensions. Each pillar has 5 dimensions. So what you get is 25 things, 25 we call them dimensions, but you could think of them as topics, considerations, packages of kind of where responsibility, authority, and accountability all kind of come together. Someone needs to be responsible for, have the authority to control, and be accountable for the success of each dimension. And the dimensions are things like programmatic rigor. Are you putting the work into making sure that your AI initiatives actually come to fruition rather than just get started and go nowhere? Data distribution. Are you building and architecting the technical components needed to distribute data across your ecosystem? Embedded AI. We used to call it incremental AI. We're now calling it embedded AI. Embedded AI is your general purpose AI tools of choice. So that could be Copilot, that could be Claude, that could be Copilot for sales, right? Like whatever that is. And I could go on and on, but basically it's 25 dimensions. And what we've done now in this next release that you'll be able to see within days is we've now built a mathematical weighting model that sits behind each of those dimensions, right? So the idea is that different dimensions require different levels of effort to come to fruition, and they make a different impact on the organization. So in other words, not every dimension is equal to every other dimension. So we've now put a model behind that to help organizations fine-tune their investment decisions and understand where they're going to get as Americans would say, the biggest bang for your buck, which sort of lands flat as a phrase in Europe. But anyway,
no, we're good here.
Yeah.
We're good here.
We're good here. We're good in Australia.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So let's go back to the question. So you have your embedded, which is your AI tools, things that are embedded in your existing tools like M365 Copilot. Then incremental is, go on. I can say it because I know it.
Okay. So embedded. I'm sorry. Embedded AI. It's useful to think of your AI scenarios, your AI workloads on a spectrum, right? Embedded AI, that's the stuff you can just go by and turn on. And your effort with embedded AI, this is think Copilot or Claude or ChatGPT. Embedded AI, the effort is going to be around adoption. It's going to be around building digital fluency amongst your workforce so that your workforce, your colleagues are able to make the best use of it. It's going to be about rethinking how folks work and what business processes and organizations look like. Most of the technical work has already been done for you. You're buying AI that exists.
So this is personal productivity land, right? So this is how do I make an individual work better with AI?
I think so. Though I think that I'm really seeing the lines blur here, right? Yeah. Like we at this point, these general purpose AI tools, right? Copilot, Claude. I keep saying Copilot and Claude because those are my favorite, right? But ChatGPT would be one of them. Copilot for sales, et cetera. Those are becoming more and more capable, right? So for a long time, we kind of, not for a long time, for about a year, we said, listen, you can buy Copilot or you can go use Copilot Studio to extend. And this is where we get into extensible AI, which is using a tool to extend the capability of AI. And we sort of viewed those as separate activities. Now I ask myself questions, right? Like, well, if I can write a markdown file that provides guidance to Copilot or Claude and essentially gives that general purpose AI, that embedded AI, a new skill, am I extending it or am I just telling it what to do? So the lines definitely blur, but I think the way to think about it is
with all the MCP servers and all that. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So does that kill Power Platform even further?
Seriously, he wants to know.
Listen, Andrew, I went to 2 or 3 Power Platform conferences in Vegas, and the last one I went to, they spent the whole conference telling us about how there wasn't going to be any more work because it was going to be able to all done through a prompt. So, and everyone was cheering. I was thinking, why are you all cheering, Ryan Cunningham when he's just telling you how all your jobs are going to go?
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head for a very the phenomenon is most acute if you go to a Power Platform event, right? Like one of the dangers that I see in conferences that are all about Power Platform right now or all about Dynamics is that it's like a bunch of people have gotten together to mutually convince themselves that they're good, right? That the skills of the old way of doing things are totally cool. You don't have anything to worry about. Usually I show up on stage and kind of in so many words, I'm like, we have things. This group has things to learn, right? Yeah. So no, Power Platform is not dead. But
you haven't said why. You've said it's not, but you haven't said how or why.
Okay. So let me give you some concrete examples. And in a phrase, Power Platform is not dead, but folks who the old way of doing Power Platform is definitely
folks who made
dead.
A living out of building Power Apps now have to find another job. Is that more the point?
That's fair. That's fair.
This has happened since Access. Microsoft Access had apps. You could build apps in Microsoft Access.
Yeah, true.
Access weirdly hangs on. Like, why is it still a thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why?
Moved on, right? Anyway.
Josh is gonna be mad at me if I don't. Okay, some examples. Okay, when I hear people talk about vibe coding, one of the first things I ask is, where is the data? Where is your data? And almost nobody can tell me where their data is when they have vibe coded something, right?
On their temp, I think. It's usually,
Like where's my data? I didn't think about that, right? So here is a way that Power Platform is not dead. Dataverse is where your data should be.
Yeah.
In a lot of vibe coding type scenarios. So I think that what Microsoft sees here is a world in which a lot of this data lives in Dataverse and you vibe code on top of it. So Dataverse, not dead. Power Apps becomes, or maybe there's a world in which sort of the Power Apps, and I don't know, I want to say this is not insider information, maybe there's a world in which the Power Apps name sort of quietly fades away and is replaced by technology that allows folks to build apps, to vibe code apps on top of secure sources of data, like Dataverse.
It's
already there, Andrew.
Yeah.
It's already there. It's already there. But I think that there's a lot of it's already there in a very early version, a very early stage, right? So it's not where it's going to land, right? The conditions today on the 8th of June, 2026, are not where this thing is going to land.
I'm saying, as an owner of an IT company that used to have a Power Platform practice, I've pivoted off to after Fabric, D365, AI. Like, that whole, we don't talk about having a Power Platform practice at all anymore.
Wow.
Yeah, that's I think that's fair.
I
think Power Pages. So Power Pages has always sort of been this, in a little bit of a way, like this orphaned technology, because it was the last of the Power products to really come into its own. Power Pages, very interesting, right? In that it's moving away. It has, over the last 18 months or so, moved away from being a clicky, draggy, drop, build the thing right here, like, kind of a Microsoft version of Squarespace. It has moved into the realm of almost being an orchestrator for, you've got public facing websites, public facing web portals that you vibe coded or you've built in React or, whatever it is. And you have Dataverse, and then Power Pages, I think, is entering a realm where it's almost more of an orchestrator, right? It allows a vibe coded thing to sit publicly on top of a secure data source. Dataverse, and Power Pages is the orchestrator in the center.
Funny you said that most of our recent Power Apps work has been Power Page, building portals and integrating it with an internal Power App. That's been where more of the work is. So I think that
totally
resonates.
Totally.
And this new AI strategy, the last one was 73 pages. Is it going to be 73 again? I'm just thinking. A friend of mine asking for a friend, Andrew. I'm asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend. Okay, so I have good news and bad news. The bad news is, despite the fact that we actually cut a lot out of this edition, it's longer than the last one, I think. I haven't seen the final laid out with the graphics and everything, but it's longer than the last one. So that's the bad news. The good news, though, is that there's a lot of new stuff in it. And the other piece of good news is that we're working right now on a piece of technology. We call it Centru, Centru.ai. And what Centru.ai is it's basically going to be a tool that uses both AI and a graphical user interface to take everything in the framework and make it accessible, right? So I don't want to give too much away, but basically, rather than read 90 pages of stuff and then evaluate where you stand and where you have risk around your risk and opportunity around AI, let's use AI to understand the 90 pages and then help an organization put it into practice better. So
I'm assuming you'll share that stuff with us, and we can share it with our. I'd love to.
Absolutely.
Be very keen.
Fantastic.
Very keen
Absolutely.
to get and the one I talking about your 25, those 5 sort of things. The things that I find customers have the most difficulty working out is scaling AI. Is AI ops. How are we going to operate this thing moving forward? What's it going to look like? How are we going to manage when we have a couple of hundred agents? How are we going to manage it? So from maybe, do you mind
So
talking about that a bit?
So listen, first of all, AI ops it's something that I think we've been aware of for several years, right? It was one of those things that we kind of knew, okay, we need to do this. There's been this phase of doing AI ops, essentially. Basically, AI ops is DevOps for AI things, right? So there's that phase.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, Tom, did you see it? Have you seen any of that in your, in your travels?
Yeah, I mean, I think the AI ops is fascinating because people are saying, well, we've played with it, it's a pilot, and now it's in production. So we now really care about what it does on a day-to-day basis, and we care about when things change. So when Vibe Code has introduced version 1.0.1.3, I want to know what it changed. I want to see the evidence that someone's actually tested this thing, and I want to know what the impact is on all the people, process, and data behind the scenes. And for what I'm saying is that is missing. Like people have just forgotten all the old rule book about change management and change releasing pieces into production. When it comes to AI, they've just forgotten about it. But it's so important, right?
Yeah, and I think that you've gotten at for me, the first rule of AI ops is don't throw away the best practice and the things that you've been doing, right? There's this organization that my team was called in kind of on an emergency basis. Essentially, what they did was they deployed some agents into production, and they spiked almost 150,000 US dollars of Azure consumption in 36 hours because. And then they had no idea what the lineage of these things were. And it turns out they had just sort of like copied code to their desktop and then chucked it into production. And it's like, guys, just because it's AI doesn't mean that we don't do this thing.
Well, Andrew, did you see the one, was it $500 million of Claude some company did because they didn't put it?
Yeah.
It was in the press the other day, $500 million top.
Yeah.
You idiots!
It's. I mean, that makes your choice, right? When you're signing up for the paid plan of Claude, and you're like, should I go with should I go with the 75? Should I go? I think I'm going to give this to you in pounds, right? Because we're a British company, so my credit card is in pounds. Like, should I go with the 75-pound one, or should I go with the 150-pound one? Right? I think that blows it out of the water, right?
But in the old days, right, we had controls around releasing change, right?
Yeah.
And we tested things out properly, and people were accountable for those kind of stuff ups. But that seems to be
Yeah. And so listen, first, don't throw away all of the good DevOps hygiene that you've built over a period of years. Don't just throw that away because this is AI. Yes, we need kind of an AI centric way of doing this, and that is evolving pretty rapidly. But don't just throw it away. There's a partner. There's a partner that I've come to know well. They're based in the UK. They're called Godel. Those guys are not. Those guys are actually building. They're very focused on building AI ops technology that others can take and buy and use. Right. So there are people who are, I would even say, starting to specialize in this area. And it mirrors what we saw in the 2010s, right, where you had some partners that were DevOps partners. That is what they did. They might even work with a partner that does the actual app development, and they focus on DevOps. So we'll see where that goes in really practical terms for CIOs, right? There's a technology built into Microsoft Foundry called Foundry Control Plane. Foundry Control Plane, I think, it's not where it needs to be or will be at the end of the day, but I think it is a solid indicator that folks at Microsoft are thinking very seriously about how to go from building and governing and putting into production one agent to how to do. The phrase I've heard, and I don't like this phrase, is a fleet of agents. But that was the phrase that I heard bandied about a few months ago.
Sorry, and what is your preferred collective noun of agents?
I don't know, but maybe a flock of agents, not a fleet of. like a fleet to me. So I was at the Coast Guard, right? To be a fleet, it must be ships. There is not a fleet of agents. It's a flock of agents.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So a sidebar comment. That's good.
That's all right. That's all right. Josh is over us. Josh is.
I was looking
these
up.
guys.
No, I was looking up what did they call a flock, a plural of crows? It's called a murder of crows.
Murder.
So it's a murder of agents.
Yes.
Oh no! Oh no!
That's right.
That's even worse.
As I said,
That's even
like
worse.
you're saying, we've got a murder of agents running around with no control.
Yes.
That would upset me enormously.
Yeah. Just a couple of things. So Microsoft had their Build conference, guys, the other day. I don't know if you with your travels. I don't want to do a big deep dive because we do a big Ignite one. But there are a couple of things that I thought were really pivotal. That Fabric IQ was GA, Andrew.
Yep.
So are you familiar with Fabric IQ?
I am, and so this is one. All of Microsoft IQ. This is one that I am bullish on. Right. I feel very favorably about Microsoft IQ. And I think that it is there's a world actually where Microsoft IQ becomes more compelling of a reason to live in the Microsoft AI ecosystem than actually the end user experience of Copilot, right? The strongest thing that Microsoft has going for it is the fact that a lot of organizations either keep or manage their data estate inside of Microsoft. And that includes SharePoint, that includes your emails, that includes your business data that's sitting in Dynamics, Dataverse, that now is living inside of Fabric because of shortcutting and the fact that we have SQL capability in Fabric, on and on and on. So what Microsoft IQ, and for the uninitiated, that includes Work IQ. So Work IQ is essentially, this is your business context, right? So Work IQ are your emails, your SharePoint documents, your Teams chats, etc. Fabric IQ, think of that as kind of the state of your business, the state of your organization. So this is your quantifiable, this is data coming out of your ERP, your CRM, your custom applications landing in Fabric. So that's Fabric IQ. That's like your more real-time intelligence layer. And then you have Foundry IQ. Foundry IQ, think of that as the standing, grounding knowledge that is provided to agents across Microsoft, right? So that could be your internal policies, that could be your codified ways of working, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a new kid on the block that Web IQ, which is very new. Let's not spend a lot of time on that. But listen, what Microsoft IQ is doing is it is bundling all of this intelligence up in a way that agents can consume it. And there's a clear lineage where that data is governed and it doesn't change hands from, say, one technology to another. And I'm very, very, I feel very optimistic about Microsoft
I mean, we do
IQ.
a lot of Fabric now.
Yeah.
And what the non-IT users are excited about is IQ.
Right.
Yeah. You can say, because we basically, AI, if it's looking at ones and zeros, it's not going to be as powerful as it's actually teaching it the language of your business. And then that's going to make the agents a lot more powerful. And so that was exciting because that went GA. And the other one I thought was interesting is that Microsoft are getting into their own models. So they announced 7 of their own models, LLMs.
Yeah.
Right. I thought that was interesting.
What do you think, guys? What do you think? I don't want to be the one.
They're late. They're very late. Yeah. 99 was ringing and asked where where your Apple phone is. I don't know. It feels too late. I don't know. I don't know, Andrew and Tom. What do you think?
Well, the horse is bolted, but I mean, who can say? Like, if these models turn out to be very useful, people adopt them. People jump on. They don't care about who's late, who's first. I mean, look at Claude versus ChatGPT. Is that who would have thought Claude would have come out of nowhere, but it has. I don't know.
The sellers they're specialised and they're trained on more narrow data and they're Andrew, did you have a view on that?
I mean, when you said that they're late, I just had this notion that all of the my models they're going to be delivered on a DVD in the mail, a CD in the mail. You're going to get it, and it's going to invite you. Can get it for the low introductory price of $9.99 for the first 6 months if you install now. Listen, so the my models. Here's the way that first of all, I'm a wait and see on Microsoft's models. I think that they are late. I think that it's interesting because in a way they almost seem peripheral to Microsoft's overall strategy and Microsoft's overall play around AI. But there is a world in which if they are very good and Microsoft develops something very compelling, where we could look back on this and think this is like when Apple said they were going to move away from Intel chips and build their own silicon, and that has been what it made everyone nervous, and kind of people thought in the Apple world, why? But it has been a wildly successful move for them. So we'll see. I'm happy they're doing it, but we'll see.
Tom, we were chatting the other day and you were saying you were seeing some business users finding some challenges with AI adoption. Did you want to talk about that?
Well, I mean, we talked about it briefly with, you talked about that sort of personal productivity versus business productivity trade-off, right? So many people I'm speaking to go, we've got to train everyone on Copilot to be AI. Mm-hmm. But I think, okay, that's a path you've got to go down. But that is like training people on Word and Excel. Like, is training them how to be personally more productive using AI. Great. But you are missing the big picture at the moment. And this is where, sort of going back to your point, Andrew, about having a broader view of your AI, using that AI strategy at a board level, not just at an IT level, is so important, right? But I mean, also so new. So it's going to take a long time for this to disseminate and get out there and people to start to realize that AI is not Copilot on the side. It actually needs to be embedded in your business.
And if everyone's just doing that, it's not differentiated really, is it?
No. It's like everyone having Excel. Like, big deal. You know, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
I think that so there's some interesting data. Anna, my wife / business partner / colleague, and Donna Sarkar had a presentation at DynamicsMinds on a topic that they came up with and that we're now developing further at the Center for Trustworthy AI, and they call it the Human Context Protocol, HCP, and it's essentially a question of how do humans use and integrate AI into their work, into their leadership, into their decision making. And one of the statistics that Anna and Donna shared during their session is something like there's research now that indicates that there's a 57% salary premium for individuals who demonstrate, who are really good at integrating and weaving AI into their work. And that's not a question of, do you sit there and sometimes during the day you chat with Copilot? That's a question of, are you wholesale, not in one big moment, right? But over time, are you weaving AI into the fabric of your day, the fabric of your life? And are you meaningfully changing the patterns, the patterns and the habits that you have? That goes beyond training. I hate when I hear that word training nowadays, because I think it's just silly.
That's huge. So 57% in what differentiated between salaries. What do you mean by that? 57%.
So I'd have to go back, and because that's not my number. That was a number that Anna and Donna shared. But as I understand it, basically, and I do think that this accounts. So let's backtrack. We're now seeing a lot of evidence that workforces that colleagues across the economy are resisting the use of AI. right?
Yep.
So in some cases, it's more just sort of kind of indifference.
Yep.
And in other cases, it could be considered more obstruction.
Yep.
And what we're seeing is that the users, the individuals, the colleagues who take a very different approach and say, no, I'm going to use AI and really make it a major part of my workday and a major part of how I operate. What they are seeing is, in the form of increased productivity, which leads to promotions, which can lead to promotions, can lead to pay rises. In some cases, it means that they're the colleague that stays when someone else is laid off, right? So I think there's a lot of data that goes into that. It's an early figure. I wouldn't put too much stock in it, but the fact that it's there and the fact that people are studying this now is meaningful.
Yeah, it's real.
Yeah, well, definitely with hiring. I mean, we're doing a lot of hiring at the moment. One of the things is, are you using AI? Do you have AI skills? And if you're differentiating between candidates, that's a key consideration at the moment. For
Hugely.
Sure. Now we're getting to, I don't know how we get to an end of an hour, but I do want to, before we go, Andrew, I want to talk about the Frontier Campus and the three sort of models that you came out with. I think it's worth, probably don't have time for a deep dive, but to talk about those three, sort of where it came from and what the three sort of architectures are at a high level, and what customers should be doing and thinking about it.
Yep. Okay, so real quick, there's a newish. It came out in early April. There's a newish, or no, late March, paper that we wrote at the Center for Trustworthy AI. It's called the Frontier Campus. The Frontier Campus is a blueprint, or a set of blueprints for a globally distributed, multi-agent, multi-cloud architecture. So you can scale it around the world. You can use it locally there at home. You don't need to be a big organization to use it. You can choose one of the blueprints and roll that out, or you can use all of them. Inside of the Frontier Campus, there are three architectural blueprints. And the architectural blueprints are meant to provide an organization with a starting point, and actually maybe an endpoint to some degree, of what multi-agent architecture looks like and how to scale that across their organization, no matter the size. The blueprints are, Blueprint A is an open architecture. It is not product specific. You could go out and you could stitch together Blueprint A using some Google technology, some Microsoft technology, some specialized technology, specialized tools. Blueprint B takes Blueprint A and says, listen, if we were going to build this almost entirely or entirely in the Microsoft stack, what would that look like? What are the technologies that you use to do that? So Blueprint B is the Microsoft architecture. And then Blueprint C is what we call the offline architecture. The reason that offline architecture was important is because one of the core principles of the Frontier Campus, and you can read all of this in the paper, was that it be available in dramatically different environments, so that it be available to an office worker in Copenhagen, or it be available to someone in the field or in a conflict zone or in a place where there is a lack of internet connectivity, or whatever the scenario might be. So Blueprint C is offline. And what it does is it prescribes an architecture for how to build and deploy AI, how to build and deploy agents that are powered by small language models and everything operating on a single device. Microsoft Foundry Local is a big component of that offline thinking.
Yeah.
There's some trade-offs there, but Microsoft Foundry Local is a great technology and an emerging technology there. So what I would love to see is partners taking that model, the Frontier Campus, and I'm starting to see this now, and scripting or creating IP that helps an organization roll this out quickly, right? So say you're hosting, you're building Blueprint B, the Microsoft architecture. I would love to see partners scripting the deployment of the Azure App Services components that are needed in order to host that frontier campus, in order to host containerized agents there. Microsoft has built the scaffolding. Partners have an opportunity to build some of the plumbing that helps customers do this more easily, or a customer can go do it all themselves. We're kind of in a we're in an evolutionary phase.
And I really like, I mean, it uses the ecosystem-oriented architecture as its foundation.
Yes.
And given most companies, as you say, are invested in Microsoft, it makes sense to stitch a whole lot of different things together. Or even, are you advocating in your first one for open source, or more? Do you mean open as in more, just whatever technology you like?
I think both.
Right.
We could do a whole podcast on concepts like open source and vendor lock-in and some of these things that people talk about. You can probably tell I have opinions about it, but yeah, it could go either way. You could go with Google, or you could go with open source technologies.
Okay. I mean, we're all locked into Microsoft anyway, really. Right. If people think they're not locked into Microsoft, I think they're potentially kidding themselves.
Try very hard not to, I'll tell you that much.
Yes. It's difficult. It's difficult. And also that for people who are interested in it, I'd highly recommend looking for the Frontier Campus, and you also sort of build in those five pillars that you have from your AI strategy as well. So it's really, the quality of the information you put out, Andrew, is extremely high, by the way. So
Thank you.
I want to congratulate you on that. It's really good.
Thank you.
You make us, owners of partners' lives a lot easier. So what would we do without you, Andrew?
Hey, that is
Thank you.
Listen, that's the goal. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to put high quality information out there that is not a bunch of fluff, not a bunch of hype, that runs the gamut from strategic thinking to, okay, now what am I going to do with this? And the whole idea is for partners and customers to be able to use that to operate as independently and without dependencies as they can, and to give my little team and me a shout when you're stuck. But that's what we're trying to do. So I'm happy you're using it. That thrills me, honestly.
Yeah. Well, the fact that I sat and read through and underlined your 73-page thing says a lot about how boring my life, and also, as we said earlier, how excited I was to see that SharePoint file archiving is now available in M365 Archive. Yay!
Yeah,
Finally.
So we were talking about this. We were talking about this before you hit record, and my promised reaction is that. So I went through a phase where I was really into registering domain names Afghani domain names. So I've long had this thing, often in a bar. You would be surprised by how many domain names I've registered in a bar. But one of them, I found this website where I could register from domains from Afghanistan. And the reason this was of interest is because it's .af. And so for a while I owned the domain SharePointIsDead.af. And I pointed it to Chris Huntingford's Twitter profile. And over the years, I pointed it at some other Twitter profiles as well. So it was sort of like, I'll let you know, to folks at Microsoft, congratulations, you are this month's recipient of SharePointIsDead.af being your official website.
I don't know if
I don't own it anymore. It's gone. I don't own it anymore. SharePoint has new life, by the way. SharePoint really does have new life.
It does. I mean, SharePoint storage is just crazy, and
that is another
just huge
topic.
Yeah, that is huge.
SharePoint in the new world, right? It's completely changed.
But
SharePoint is undead. It's undead. It used to be dead, but it's no longer dead. It is undead. It is. Yeah.
Hey, and the next thing is we're talking about building workflows on top of SharePoint.
Right. Right. We're going to be.
That'll come back.
Someone's going to call me and say, "Hey, I need to convert all of these legacy Power Automate flows over to SharePoint." Bury my head in my hands.
All right. Tom, have you got any last words?
No, just say thanks. I'm looking forward to reading these 5 pillars when they come out. I'm really looking to engage.
They're out. It's just version 3 or 4, Andrew, isn't it?
Version 3. Version 3.
Yeah, I'm looking to see version 3. If you could email it over, that'd be great.
I will.
Please. And thank you so much, Andrew. Really appreciate you coming back and sharing your valuable time. And I'm not being facetious there. Sharing your valuable time with us. We really appreciate you being on and being so open. It's been an absolute honour and privilege to have you on. Thank you so much.
Guys, thank you. I was actually thinking these guys would be really fun to have a regular podcast with. So anyway, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Be careful.
No, we'll definitely have you back. We can't do 3 in a row, but we'll definitely have you back again soon. And
I'll be back for 84.
Yeah.
I'm coming for 84.
Yeah. We'll try. And Andrew, do you want to give yourself a plug before we go about where people should come and find all your stuff?
Yeah. So you can, everyone feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm Andrew D. Welch. My middle initial is D for David. You can also find me at my company at cloudlight.house and the Center for Trustworthy AI that publishes all of this at centerfortrustworthyai.org. We have the American spelling and the everyone else spelling of center. So hit us up.
Thank you so much. And if you want to reach out to Tom with his red, yellow, blue and doing sort of more strategy work out there, you can reach out to Tom on LinkedIn or myself. Everyone knows at Empyrean IT. So thanks so much, everyone. I hope you had a good King's holiday and we'll be seeing you soon. See you guys.
Thank you.